Okay, let's go ahead and work some problems now that we have some of the vocabulary and some of the concepts and ideas down pat. Here we have a problem that says the cube root of 125. Now we could do this a couple of different ways. If you have your list going with all of your perfect cubes and then, the cube roots, which would be going backwards, then you could use this to say, okay, well, let's think about this in another way. This would be, the same thing as saying, what do I have to cube in order to get 125? Same exact thing. Well, then that number we know would be a 5. So our answer, the cube root of 125, is 5. Now we could also do this on our calculator just to double check, and I do want to show you where some things are on your calculator so whenever you get into college algebra you'll be a little bit more familiar with it. Okay, we know that from doing the square roots in the last section that we had the button here on our calculator that was the square root. In order to activate that, we had to hit the second and then the x squared key. So if I wanted to do the square root of, say, 4, then I'd have to close the parentheses because it automatically opened one. Then hit enter and it would tell me that my answer is 2. Okay, we don't have a button nicely on here for the cube root, but we do have it on the calculator. So if you see this button right here that says math, if we click on that math button, it opens up a whole new sub-menu. So within the math button we have, this is where we would change things over to fractional form or over to decimal form or so on and so forth. But this number 4 right here, this is our cube root of something. So if I wanted to do the cube root, we have to hit the math button first, and then we would choose number 4, and it puts a cube root on our screen. And then we could type in 125, close that parentheses. Since it already opened one, we have to close it, and then when we hit enter, we'll see that our answer is 5. Alright, so we can always use our calculators also on this. Okay, let's see what's next. Now here we have a problem that says we want the opposite or the negative of the fourth root of 256. Well, again, you'd have to have a list of fourth powers in order to be able to go backwards, because what this literally says is something raised to the fourth power gives you 256. And I'm ignoring this negative for just a minute. I'm just looking at the fourth root of 256. Okay, if we don't know that off the top of our head, again, we can use our calculators to help figure out what that would be. So, on our calculator, the big difference here now is, just to recap, square root was a button on the calculator here. In order to do cube root, we had to hit the math. For every other root, you must type in the index first. So since we're doing a fourth root, we have to hit 4 first to tell the calculator exactly what root or what index you're working with. Then we select the math button again. And do you see down here at number 5 it has an X root? This means it's any root. So we're going to choose number 5. Now your calculator understands that we're doing the fourth root of something. And we want to tell it to do the fourth root of 256. Now, it did not open up a parenthesis, so we don't have to close one out. And when we hit enter, we see that the answer is 4. So going back to the paper here, what we've found out now is that the fourth root of 256 is 4. But that wasn't all, was it? We ignored that negative on the outside. Now we have to bring it down because this literally says the opposite of this. So the opposite of 4 would be negative 4. And we'll practice with some more in the next video.